Hello students, welcome back. Let us continue reading the third chapter from your textbook Hornbill. The title of the chapter is Discovering Tut, the Saga Continues. So the last thing that we read was that King Tut, he was buried with precious collars, necklaces with decorative patterns, bracelets, rings, amulets, ceremonial aprons, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, and now an iconic inner coffin and a mask which was made of gold. So Carter's men, what they did, they removed Tut's head and every joint of his body, and after they finished, they again reassembled the remains in a wooden box with padding filled with a layer of sand to conceal and cover the damage which was caused by them. And it is where King Tut now rests. So let us continue reading from page number 25, second paragraph. Archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. It also uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor X-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact. Beneath the resin that cakes his chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. Okay. So, in the past few decades, archaeology has changed, and as it now focuses on the details of life and the mysteries of death, and earlier it was about focusing on the treasure. Now, it uses more advanced medical technologies and tools for research. Okay. Then it is told that in 1968, an anatomy professor x-rayed King Tut's mummy and he revealed a surprising fact. What was that? That the front ribs, the front limbs, the breastbone and the front ribs were missing from King Tut's mummy. Okay, further let us read. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography, or CT, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross-section are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. What more would a CT scan reveal of Tut than the X-ray? And could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? How did he die? And how old was he at the time of his death? King Tut's demise was a big event, even by royal standards. He was the last of his family's line, and his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. But the particulars of his passing away and his aftermath are unclear. So here the author writes that with the advancement of technology, CT scan or computed tomography, they can give a virtual image of the whole body, and with the help of this technology, King Tut's body would be scanned to find answers of two main questions. First one, how he died, and second one was how old was he at the time of his death. Now King Tut's death was a shock to the royals also, as he was the last person of his family, and his funeral also indicated the diminishment, the end of his dynasty. However, what happened after his death is still not clear. Okay, let us read ahead. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. His son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, changed his name to Akhenaten, or servant of the Aten, and moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhetaten, known now as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. "It must have been a horrific time," said Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, the site of ancient Thebes. The family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wacky. So Tut's father or grandfather, Amenhotep III, was a very powerful pharaoh who ruled over a period of 40 years, and his son Amenhotep IV, he succeeded him, and then began the strangest period in the history of Egypt. Why? Amenhotep IV promoted the worship of Aten, the sun disk, and he changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning servant of the Atens. Now he also shifted the religious capital from Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten, which is now called Amarna. And it's told that he further attacked Amun, who was considered to be a major god. What all he did, he smashed his images and also closed his temples. Now, Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago, said that it must have been a bad time for the empire, and as the family who ruled for centuries came to an end, and Akhenaten moved in an odd direction, to the wrong direction. Okay, let us read further. After Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Smechare appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace. And then a very young Tutankhaten took the throne, King Tut, as he is widely known today. The boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, which means living image of Amun, and oversaw a restoration of the old ways. He reigned for about 9 years and then died unexpectedly. Regardless of his fame and speculations about his fate, Tut is one mummy among many in Egypt. How many? No one knows. The Egyptian Mummy Project, which began an inventory in late 2003, has recorded almost 600 so far and is still counting. The next phase, scanning the mummies with a portable CT machine donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens, its manufacturer. King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned, in death as in life, moving regally ahead of his countrymen. So during the night, workmen who were there with Carter, workmen climbed up on the ramp and the flight of stairs to carry the body from the tomb into the swirling, spinning sand outside, and then they rose the body onto a hydraulic lift. It's a lift that uses a machine to lift or move heavy objects with a certain amount of pressure. So then they took the body into a trailer where the scanner was kept, and after 20 minutes 2 men ran towards the office nearby to bring 2 white plastic fans, and then it is told that the scanner was not working as the sand had entered in one of the coolers, one of the fans. Okay, and that and the narrator tells that the guard who was there joked that it was because of the curse of Pharaoh, because they had removed his body, King Tut's body, King Tut's mummy. Because they had removed his body, therefore the scanner had stopped working. Further, eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen, who carried him back to his tomb. Less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin, the pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priests had laid him so long ago. So here, once the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure, the data was checked in case of any losses, and then the technicians returned the body to the workmen who carried King Tut's mummy back to his tomb. So it said that in less than 3 hours only, King Tut was resting at the same place where the priest had laid him many years ago. Okay, let us read ahead. Back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images of Tut on a computer screen. A grey head took shape from a scattering of pixels, and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared as clearly as in an anatomy class. Other images revealed a hand, several views of the ribcage, and a transection of the skull. But for now the pressure was off. Sitting back in his chair, Zahi Hawass smiled, visibly relieved that nothing had gone seriously wrong. "I didn't sleep last night, not for a second," he said. "I was so worried, but now I think I will go and sleep." See students, here you can see in your books one of the murals, one of the paintings in King Tut's tomb, showing King Tut with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Okay, let us read ahead. By the time we left the trailer, descending metal stairs to the sandy ground, the wind had stopped. The winter air lay cold and still, like death itself, in this valley of the departed. Just above the entrance to Tut's tomb stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, watching over the boy king. So in the trailer, the technician showed a beautiful image of Tut on a computer screen, and he showed the grey head which was scattered in pixels, and he spun and tilted it in every direction using the advanced technology. Now next, they could see the vertebrae, hand, ribcage, and transection of Tut's skull. So as the work was done, the pressure was finally off from the shoulders of Zahi Hawass, and while sitting in his chair, he smiled and said that he was relieved that nothing went wrong. And he also says that now he had not slept the previous night, and now as the work was done, he would go and sleep for sure. So then next, in the next paragraph, it's told that by the time they all left the trailer, the wind had stopped and the winter air was very cold. It was very quiet and still like death itself. And just above King Tut's tomb, the Orion constellation shone in the night sky. Orion constellation was the one that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of goddess Osiris. Okay, so the goddess Osiris is considered to be the goddess of afterlife, as you can see this in the picture also. So the god itself was watching over the boy king, the young King Tut's grave. Okay, so this is it about the chapter. We'll discuss the question answers in our next session, and also note down the doubts that you have. Do mark the difficult words and reread all the passages, the entire chapter. I would say reread it again in detail. Thank you, everyone.